Hi, Coop, Week 9, APA Ascension, Team Builder. Much info, few word. Anyways, we're here, as I said, Week 9, APA Ascension, Team Builder. This week we're taking on Coach Aaron and the Rome Empoleons. As you can see from our lovely image of our opponent's team on the right, he has some very scary Pokemon in the first half of his draft. You look at the bottom half of the draft and you see a Munchlax. You see a Regirock, you see a Liepard, you see a Rotom. That's pretty manageable, right? Oh, right, yeah, let's look at the first 6 picks. So we're talking about Zygarde 50%, which anybody that follows Smogon 6v6 formats got banned to Ubers earlier this year. We have Tapu Bulu. We have Hawlucha. Both of Tapu Terrain plus Hawlucha is a very potent combo in OU. He has Volcarona, which can use is a Z-move user. It's also a very scary Pokemon. We have Tentacruel, which is has pretty nice typing and of course access to stuff like T-Spikes. It's pretty good rapid spinner with good base speed tier. Good utility Pokemon. And then you have an absolute tank like Mega Aggron, which with its filter doesn't really die to attacks and can run crazy sets like Curse Rest, and it's also a very reliable rock setter. So yeah, it's definitely a tale of two drafts. That first half of the draft is definitely what I am preparing much more for than the second half of the draft, but there are a lot of monsters there, and definitely have to be very careful about what I bring to this matchup. With that being said, looking at my team and my matchup, as well as my opponent's usage stats for this season, I kind of came to the conclusion that I could pretty much guess what they were going to bring. So I felt pretty confident that they were going to bring Tapu Bulu plus Hawlucha. Bulu by itself has a pretty good matchup when you're looking at the fact that I have stuff like Blastoise and Quagsire have been really common picks for me this season as just like a bulky, physically defensive tank. Of course, it's also really good against Diancie, especially if you're running something like AV Tapu Bulu. It's going to be able to take up those Moonblasts pretty easily, and it's obviously going to be able to OHKO with Hornleech. So yeah, Bulu also gets nice coverage. It does get Rock Move, so if you're predicting stuff like Moltres to come in on the switch, you can Stone Edge it. You got stuff like SD Superpower for Ferrothorn. You got Mega Horn for Latias. So yeah, Bulu's really good. And then of course, if you're going to run Bulu, you might as well run Hawlucha. Get ridiculous speed, access to Swords Dance, pretty good coverage in fighting and flying, as well as Hawlucha also does get some nice tech moves. Stuff like Iron Head, Throat Chop, Stone Edge, you name it. So Bulu Lucha, 100% coming. Volcarona, it's also pretty darn good in this matchup against my team. If it gets Quiver Dance off, the right set, it can just kind of blow through everything. So definitely think Volcarona's coming. So that's 3 Pokemon. I'm like, yeah, those are definitely coming. Mega Aggron as well. Pretty solid Diancie check. You run some Spit F on it, and this thing's going to be able to come in on Moonblast pretty easily and threaten it out. With Heavy Slam, you can get a Brox on it. I mean, granted, Diancie, it does have the Magic Bounce, so if you stay in, you're setting up Brox for the Diancie user, but yeah, if you stay in with Diancie on Mega Aggron, unless Mega Aggron's really chipped, you're pretty crazy, so yeah. So I definitely felt like Mega Aggron was going to come here as this rock setter. So at that point, I already nailed down 4 of his Pokemon. And really, it was coming down to the last 2 things that I had to pick. And looking at his replays, I felt pretty confident that he would actually bring Rotom. He's brought Rotom to a lot of games as his main defogger, as well as just providing some nice Volt Switch to get in stuff like Volcarona and Hawlucha safely. Or Zygarde 50 safely as well. So yeah, I definitely felt like Rotom was going to be 5. So then really I was down to like 1 Pokemon. And I felt like that Pokemon could be Tentacruel. It could be Gastrodon, it could be Regirock. I didn't think it would be Regirock, but it could be Regirock. But I was leaning more towards Zygarde 50 or Gastrodon as being his 6th Pokemon. Just being able to sponge up Electric type hits, Gastrodon, of course, just being a really nice bulky Pokemon, access to Recover, and then, of course, just nice stabs. Scald, Earth Power, Earthquake, whatever you want to call it, as well as Toxic, and then Recover. So yeah, that's kind of what I expected him to bring. So with that in mind, I did build this team. Yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So, as usual, the Goddess we've been bringing every single week, Mega Diancie. This time we're running 3 attacks plus Protect over Stealth Rocks. Protect, I figured, would just be a nice way of giving myself a nice scout against something like Aggron. If I see like a Diancie versus Aggron lead, I can click Protect. If he decides to overpredict and expect me to switch out and sets up Stealth Rocks, that's free rocks for me, which is super nice. Since I can just stay and Protect, I don't have to worry about taking like Z Heavy Slam from Mega Aggron, because obviously that's not going to happen. So yeah, I can try to get rocks up in there and just also play some mind games. Since my team is pretty good and does kind of force my opponent to double certain times, my opponent's team is very much momentum based, so if you can get Hawlucha in at a good time, or you can get Volcarona in at a good time, you can get them set up and just start punching holes through your opponent's team. So if my opponent wants to try and make a double switch, trying to get that momentum on and not predict obvious switch for me, Protect really gives me takes away the 50-50 mind game and lets me just stay in there, see what they want to go for, and then if they do double, I'm in a great position because you can't really switch into Diancie. So yeah, I figured Power Gem, really just there for the Volcarona in case it gets +1 or something. I can still take it out, assuming it doesn't have like Giga Drain and can Oko me. That's pretty much the only thing that Power Gem's there for. Moonblast just bodies this guy's team outside of Aggron and Tentacruel, which is why we were running Earth Power. So yeah, that's why I ran the moves I did on my Diancie. The speed, we're running up speed for max speed Volcarona. I originally had myself outrunning Liepard, but given the fact that he only brought Liepard once this season, that was pretty early, I really didn't feel like that was going to come. I also didn't think it was very good in this matchup, so I decided to just take a little bit of extra speed out and put that into bulk. So I don't have to worry about outspeeding Liepard, but we're still faster than Volcarona, which is really the big problem. So what does the bulk do, right? So you can see I took up some speed out, took some special attack out, and then dumped 120 into HP. And so what that HP number does is it lets me live a +1 Bug Buzz from Volcarona when it's in Swarm range, which if he's not running Giga Drain, if he's running a set like Fire Move, Quiver Dance, Bug Buzz, and something like HP Rock for my Minior and my Moltres, it's going to be able to let Diancie be able to beat that +1 Volcarona, assuming that there, like I said, that there is no, I burned the Z Bug Buzz and that there is no Giga Drain on it. So that's what that's for. Also, it has the nice benefit of being able to live a +2 Hawlucha Drain Punch after Stealth Rocks. I did notice in replays my opponent does not really run High Jump Kick on Hawlucha, so he's missing out on a lot of fighting type power there, which he really needs to be able to break through some stuff like Diancie. Granted, you could just run Iron Head, but in the event that he's running something like SD, Acrobatics, Fighting Move, Throat Chop for Latias, or Stone Edge for Moltres or something like that, my Diancie will be able to live that +2 stab fighting move if it's Drain Punch and not High Jump Kick, and I can Oko it back with Moonblast. So yeah, that's that spread. Number 2 Pokemon, we got our Latias here. Rocking the Culpa Berry, really that's just there to make sure that I do have another way to beat Hawlucha, assuming that it is going to be like Grassy Seed, SD, Acrobatics, like I said, Drain Punch, and then maybe something like Throat Chop. I can live the +2 through Throat Chop, and then I can just Oko with Psychic. The investment is really there for like a slightly bulky Hawlucha. I don't think he really has the flexibility to run that much HP or special defense in his Hawlucha, because he really does need all the investment in attack, and he does need a significant amount of speed, because I think I would still EV to be faster than Mega Diancie. Assuming like for some situation you couldn't get your Unburden boost, I think I would want to be faster than that Diancie. So I feel like he doesn't really have a whole lot of EVs to put into bulk. So it KOs a relatively like a moderate bulk Hawlucha 100% of the time with Psychic. Ice Beam is there for Tapu Bulu and Zygarde 50. Recover, of course, just for our longevity, and Defog there to try and keep off rocks for Moltres, which, spoiler, you will see later. Also, I guess T-Spice if he tries to bring it with Tentacruel. But yeah, we're running a lot of HP and Bold Nature, a lot of defense, really, like I said. It's there just to try and check Hawlucha. After rocks, we do live a max attack Adamant +2 Acrobatics with that spread after rocks. So yeah, and speed's just for Tapu Bulu, max speed Jolly. So yeah. Our next Pokemon, we're rocking the nice Snorlax, max HP, max special defense, absolute beast with Gluttony, Papa Berry, and Recycle. Definitely taking full advantage of one of the Gen 7 buffs for Snorlax here. With that Recycle, Gluttony, and then the 50% berries. Running pretty basic set. Instead of trying to set up with Snorlax this week, we're really just there to try and take hits from Volcarona and I guess provide a switch in for Gastrodon or Rotom if we really need as well. We got Return there just for a nice stab. It's going to hit everybody pretty decently. Stuff like Tapu Bulu is going to take a decent chunk from it. Tentacruel takes a pretty good chunk from it. Zygarde 50 takes a good chunk. Gastrodon takes a good chunk, all that stuff. Rock Slide, of course, there for the Volcarona. We need to make sure we can OHKO that sucker. Because I don't think he's going to run bulk on the Volcarona. And yeah, if we can just OHKO that with Rock Slide, fantastic. Pursuit is really there for Rotom. So previously I did have Whirlwind on this. Just because I figured that would be my best bet against any Volcarona set. So if my opponent was pretty woke, I was running something like Sub-Swarm Volcarona, where he just got like a Quiver Dance up, and then just subbed on my Snorlax repeatedly until he got into Swarm range, and then threw off the +1 Swarm Z Bug Buzz, which actually is a really good chance to kill Snorlax if it has any chip on it whatsoever, even despite the max speed F. I figured, I can beat that because I don't need to worry about it. If he is starting to do sub strats, I can just Whirlwind it out, and if it's not sub, I have Rock Slide for it. So it kind of gave me coverage against any Volcarona, but in testing, Rocks were honestly just like my best way of beating Volcarona, given that it's 4 times weak to Stealth Rocks. So I figured, what if I just bring Pursuit? Because if he's bringing Rotom to defog, and he like wants to defog as I bring in Snorlax, and then he Volt Switches out on my Snorlax to get in something else, and I Pursuit it as it Volt Switches out, I get that double boosted super effective Pursuit. It's going to do quite a lot to that Rotom, and if I get rid of that Rotom and get Rocks back out, the Volcarona is going to be effectively checked. So yeah, that's pretty much where my Snorlax set comes in. It's really just there to handle Volcarona. Our 4th Pokemon, we got our nice Quagsire. As usual, rocking leftovers unaware set. Max HP and close to max defense. The special defense is there so I could live a +1 modest Bug Buzz from Volcarona 100% of the time from full. Because obviously with unaware, I ignore Volcarona's boosts, and that goes for offense and for defense. So my Scald is still going to be doing damage as if the Volcarona was at +0 special defense, and I'll take damage like it's at +0 special attack. So yeah, if the Volcarona is not running Giga Drain, which I could totally see it running Giga Drain, like I said, just because of the fact that I do have Quagsire, Diancie, stuff like that. Yeah, and then in an emergency, I could use Quagsire to like take a hit from Volcarona and kill it back with the Scald as soon as it's chipped. But yeah, what are we on? 5th Pokemon? Yeah, 5th Pokemon is our Ferrothorn. Rocking the Chople Berry this week for a potential SD Superpower Tapu Bulu. I got the Chople Berry, max HP, max defense. Like I said, really there for taking hits from Tapu Bulu. Also stuff like Zygarde can get like Choice Band Superpower. That sort of stuff. That's really all that the Chople Berry is there for, is just to make sure I can take hits. And then I went with a physically defensive build this week because, like, obviously my opponent's special attackers are pretty limited. I mean, stuff like Tentacruel, unless you're running HP Fire Tentacruel, you're really not going to do that much to Ferrothorn, and Tentacruel is really weak, so even HP Fire is not going to do that much. Same for Rotom, it's like a pretty weak Pokemon overall. Really, the only thing that's really strong special attacker for my opponent that he's likely to bring is the Volcarona, but Ferrothorn's going to die to Volcarona anyway, so, what's really the point of putting a lot of special defense? But if I put a lot of physically defensive, we can check Tapu Bulu better, we can check Zygarde better, we can live a hit from Talucha with the Chople Berry, stuff like that. So I figured physically defensive Ferrothorn would be a much better pivot for me, especially with some Leech Seed recovery. As you can see, we've got Leech Seed, we got Dual Stabs and Gyro Ball, Power Whip, and Stealth Rock. Stealth Rock, of course, they're really just to make sure that Volcarona does not get out of hand. And if it's going to come in, it comes in at 50%. That's pretty much our goal. And then Dual Stabs just hit things nicely. The Gyro Ball is going to OHKO the Tapu Bulu after like a superpower drop 100% of the time. I think even if it was max HP. And then Power Whip is just a pretty nice move for us, hitting stuff like Tentacruel, Regirock, Gastrodon, hits Rotom harder than Gyro Ball, obviously, since it's not resisted. Yeah, so that's Ferrothorn set. Finally, our last Pokemon, the Godbird, Moltres, Leftovers, running Flame Body this week, just that way, if the Hawlucha touches me, there's a chance that it gets burned and I don't have to worry about it anymore. Running Flamethrower, Air Slash, Dual Stabs, Roost Toxic, kind of a more defensive Moltres build, as you've seen me bring in the past. Max HP, 44 defense was there to live acrobatics from Hawlucha from full. Obviously, we're not taking that after rocks, but from full we can take the +2 acrobatics and do 88 min back to like a 96 HP, 36 special defense Hawlucha with my 40 special attack. And then 40 special defense is there for a +1 modest Fire Blast from Volcarona. We can take it after rocks all but 12.5% of the time. And enough speed for max speed Tapu Bulu. So yeah, that one's a pretty Chinese EV set, as Envy would say. But yeah, that's my team. Definitely a little nervous going into this because this team is kind of passive. I don't have tons of like setup offense where I can just like really just automatically hit my opponent back super hard and put myself in a good position, whereas that's a lot of what they have. So, you know, hacks could definitely be an issue for me, like if my opponent gets a critical hit on one of my walls or something like that and it goes down and I don't really have a good way of offensively threatening them, this game could get tricky. But I do like the build. In practice it did pretty well, and let's go ahead and just see how it plays out. Alright, here we are in the game. As you can see, my opponent is rocking up pretty much everything I expected, except they do have the Gastron over the Zygarde 50, which is something that I definitely could see. So, my game plan going into here, I really want rocks up. It's going to be great against that Volcarona, really pressuring that thing from trying to double in to try and get advantage for my opponent, as well as just inflicting a little bit of ship on Bulu, Lucha, Rotom every time they switch in, so rocks can be super nice. However, I don't really want to lead off with my rocks, because in testing, Aggron is a pretty fantastic lead for my opponent, and really if we end up trading rocks turn 1, things didn't always turn out the best. So I found that Moltres tended to be a much better lead in practice, because Rotom is really weak. It doesn't actually do that much. It does like 50% max with Volt Switch, assuming that it's just like a standard support Rotom. And so yeah, being able to have an automatic advantage against something like Hawlucha or Bulu or Aggron is really nice with the Moltres. And of course, because Moltres is my potential Z, I could have like Z Solar Beam to just nuke the Gastrodon. So I'm going to lead off with Moltres here, as we do see my opponent lead off with the Tapu Bulu. Now, you're thinking, wow, this is a great matchup. Chemcoop is so smart. He leads Moltres against Bulu. Luckily, I have a 4,000 IQ, and I also, from watching replays, I've noticed my opponent sometimes uses Scarf Bulu. So I figure, yeah, I'm going to scout for Scarf Bulu here. I'm not going to stay in here. If it's running like Scarf Stone Edge and I lose my Moltres turn 1, this game is going to get much harder. So I'm going to go out to a pretty safe switch in. Got Ferrothorn here. He goes for the Stone Edge, so it does confirm what I thought. It could be Scarf, but most certainly is running a rock type coverage move to try and hit that Moltres. Now here, I look at the damage. I can tell if he's adamant, like max attack, based on that Stone Edge damage. So I figure here is a pretty good time for me to get up rocks here, right? Like I can get up rocks. He does throw off the superpower here, so he actually gives me free rocks, which is just incredible, because it does pop my Chocolate Berry. I only take 26% from that, and with the grassy terrain recovering 6% per turn, yeah, that's great. So I get the rocks here as he does superpower here. And now here I make a phenomenal prediction. So I look at my opponent's team. I figure you're not staying with Bulu, right? Because if I click Gyro Ball and the Bulu dies, you're forced to go out to your Hawlucha to get your Grassy Seed now. And this is way too early game for Hawlucha to try to break. All my stuff is at 100%. So even if it gets to +2, odds are I'm going to have prepped so that way I can take on a +2 Hawlucha, right? So he's not going to risk the Bulu, right? So looking at my opponent's team, I figure switching in Volcarona on rocks is probably not a great idea. You could go hard Hawlucha here, but again, you're wasting your item and you're on burden turn 2, and that's probably not the best time to set up. Aggron could come in to try and get up rocks of its own. Gastron would be a pretty whack play, but to me, the most obvious play is either Aggron or you go Rotom to try and defog, because Rotom's not really going to take a whole lot from Gyro Ball, and it's going to be able to get that defog off, and then you can get the Volcarona in safely against the Ferrothorn. So here, I'm looking at this. I have terrain up, so my Power Whips are going to be boosted. It's going to do, Power Whip does more to Aggron than Gyro Ball, especially with the terrain, and potentially I could actually just Oko this Rotom if it switches in with the terrain boosted Power Whip. So I'm going to go for the Power Whip against the Grass type here. My opponent does, in fact, switch out as they go into the Rotom. Guys, bye-bye Rotom. I missed. That sucks. that sucks. Because if these rocks stayed up and I just Oko that Rotom turn 3, that Volcarona is in so much trouble. But I miss. But here, I figure he is still going to have to defog. So I stay in here, go for another Power Whip as he does defog, and I Oko the Rotom. So would have been really nice to hit that attack. But what can you do? Volcarona comes out here. Great for me. This thing cannot take my Snorlax on from full. He goes for the Fiery Dance, doesn't get the boost. I get some nice healing from the grassy terrain. And at this point, yeah, I have my hard counter to Volcarona in. So what I'm actually going to do here, so I thought about this for a little bit. I could click Rock Slide, right? But probably not my best option, because like he goes Aggron pretty freely here, or something like Bulu. So going for Rock Slide's probably not my best play. So what I ended up doing here is I decided, let me go for the Pursuit, right? Because Pursuit's going to do like, not a whole lot, but it'll do like 30% to the Volcarona. And that's really nice damage, because if I am able to get Rocks up before the Volcarona comes in again, with that 30% plus the 50%, the Volcarona's now at 20, it is going to be trapped in there, because unless it has Roost, it's not going to be able to get enough healing to get out of Rock's range. And I killed this Defogger, so Rocks are always going to be up, unless I decide to defog them away, which, until that Volcarona is dead, I don't really want to do. So I'm going to opt to go for the Pursuit here. It does do about 30%, as you can see, and I get burned from the Flame Body. So that sucks, because keeping the Snorlax really healthy and having higher damage output is going to be really nice for trying to get rid of this Volcarona late game. However, this does also tell me, if it's Flame Body, it's not Swarm. So those Bug Buzzes from a low HP Volcarona, really not going to be doing a whole lot of damage. So that is kind of a relief, even though it cost me a burn on my Snorlax. But he does switch out to Aggron here. This is pretty free rocks for him. I decide, hey, he likes free rocks, I like free rocks, I'm getting up my rocks too. So rocks come out here. I said Rocks, he goes Hardened Volcarona, great play on my Ferrothorn clicking Stealth Rock. So here, I was really afraid of this Volcarona just going for the Quiver Dance here. He didn't go for it the last time, he just went for the Fiery Dance, which I can totally respect because there were no rocks up, so it was a pretty low drawback play for him to just click Fiery Dance, and if I went into a counter, switch out into something else. So yeah, so here I kind of figured he would Quiver Dance here, and I didn't want to let this thing get a totally free Quiver, so I stay into the Leech Seed, but he does just Fire Dance and knocks me out, which sucks, because I lose Ferrothorn, which is a pretty nice response to Bulu and to Gastrodon, so losing Ferrothorn definitely sucks, but it's not the worst thing in the world, because this Volcarona is not boosted, so I can go Diancie here and just click Power Gem, right? But here, I didn't really want to just click Power Gem, because you know, my opponent's got a Gastrodon. You can switch in Gastrodon pretty freely if it's Spadef. Aggron's also going to come in nicely on a Power Gem. So I actually end up just deciding to click Earth Power here, expecting him to switch out. In hindsight, I should just click Power Gem because he doesn't have Defog, so this Volcarona comes back in at 20%. 20% Volcarona is really not going to be that useful, especially given the rest of my team. Assuming I am running faster Latias, it's going to be able to kill a 20% Volcarona. 20% Volcarona is not being Snorlax. Unless it's HP Rock, it's not beating Moltres. If it's Giga Drain, it can beat Quag, but Volcarona's not super useful. So in hindsight, I should have expected him to sack this and have just clicked Power Gem. But I click Earth Power as he does go for the Quiver Dance. So here I'm like, yikes. He could be packing the Giga Drain. I'm not going to risk that. I'm going to go hard into my Snorlax here. Now that I know he's not Swarm, I don't have to worry about too much damage coming out here. And, oh guys, perfect. Giga Drain to 17 with the burn. It takes just enough so I get my Iapapa Berry back, and now I will live any Z move he chooses to go for, and my Rock Slide should still be able to knock this thing out. However, he does just go for the Bug Buzz here. You can see it does 31% to my Lax as I just go for the Rock Slide and kill the Volcarona. So, big threat, gone. Bulu comes out here, and I'm not going to risk him Stone Edging my Latias or my Moltres on switching, so I'm going to go out to Latias here. Covers these plays that he can make pretty well. This is a free recover for me, as he does opt to Woodhammer. So at this point, I'm like, wait, I know my opponent's entire set now. He's got Horn Leech, Woodhammer, Stone Edge, Superpower, so it's 4 attacks Bulu. So more than likely, this is just Assault Vest Tapu Bulu. If you're running 4 attacks, if I'm not going to run a nice coverage move like SD or Toxic or Synthesis on your Tapu Bulu, and you're running 4 attacks, you're probably AV. So I figured, okay, he's probably Assault Vest. I'm just going to recover up here and stall him out of grassy terrain. He does go to the Aggron here. I actually ended up defaulting on that switch. So obviously, I knew the aggron was going to come in at some point and just set up rocks, but pretty much what I wanted was to make sure I was at high HP for that Hawlucha. So I wanted rocks gone, and I wanted to be at high HP. So I figured if I defog here and the aggron comes in, it's going to be forced to set rocks on one of the turns that I recover, and then I'm going to be able to switch out. So yeah, he does just heavy slam here. I'm going to throw off another recover here, as he does finally put up the rocks. So this is the position I wanted. Latias is healthy. He did get rid of rocks for me, but or I did get rid of my own rocks, and he did get rocks back up. But like I said, I just need Latias healthy because my calcs tell me that I should be able to live Hawlucha at +2 after rocks. So yeah, I go to Quag here. Figure this is a nice middle ground play for me to make, as he does just throw off a heavy slam. Here, obviously, you could go to Gastrodon on like a predicted Earth Power or a Scald and try to get the boost. But I figured more than likely he'd probably try and go Bulu or something. So I figured let's just throw off the Scald here. If I can burn the Bulu, heck yeah. We're in a great position, right? So I throw off the Scald, and of course, hot water. I do burn the Bulu, so that's phenomenal. Here, thinking about it, my opponent could very easily go to Hawlucha here. Or he could also Stone Edge here, predicting the Moltres to come in. And after rocks, I really don't want my Moltres taking the Stone Edge. I'm pretty sure it dies. So I make the nice mid ground of going to Latias because I figured this covered everything my opponent could go for, as he does go Hawlucha. So this is great. The Hawlucha is not being able to set up a Swords Dance. I have my Latias in. I can Oko this thing with the Psychic. I figured he would stay in because he already popped his Unburden. He already popped his Grassy Seed. This is like Hawlucha's time to sweep. So he probably isn't going to switch this thing out, even though he does have good responses to Latias and Gastron and Aggron. I just throw off the Psychic here. Low drawback play for me. I Oko the Hawlucha. And at this point, things are looking pretty dang good. The Bulu is burned, and it's AV, so it doesn't have tons of recovery. Aggron is really going to struggle to break my Moltres, assuming he doesn't have Rock Slide, which I really didn't think he had room to run that. So those two Pokemon are a threat. Gastrodon is really the only thing I'm afraid of, because at this point in the game, I look at my team, I don't have any grass moves left for this thing, and if he's running something like Curse Rest, that could be really scary. So I'm going to go hard at Quagsire here, because I'm like, I need to get a Toxic off on this thing, just to try and force him to rest if he does have it. Now here, I kind of make an over prediction here. I expect him to go Aggron, or Bulu, so I just throw off the Scald here, but he does just stay in and go for the Earth Power, so that sucks. Obviously I give him the +1 boost. It doesn't really make that much difference because I'm unaware, right? So like, who cares? I'm still gonna be taking the same even though he's +1, but here, I'm like, okay, I guess he's just staying in, so I'm gonna throw off a Toxic here and get a Toxic on this guy, because that's really my best way of breaking it. Do get the Toxic off, nice. Here I'm just going to go ahead and actually save the 14% Quagsire just for fodder later in the game, because I figured my Fat Snorlax could take a hit. He goes for a Scald here, which I didn't really understand because the Earth Power is stronger and you saw it do 21%, and the Scald actually misses out on the KO. I live on like 1 and recycle, and now my Snorlax is invincible to this Gastrodon. So here I really just wanted to draw out if he had Rest as his last move, but after having seen Toxic, Earth Power, Scald, I was pretty convinced that he was just Recover and didn't have Rest, so I was like, alright, well I'll just stall this thing out of HP and we'll be in a good position. He goes Aggron. It takes 4% from that return, guys. Pretty impressive. But here I can just sack off my Quagsire to the Heavy Slam. And yeah, now I'm going to be able to get the Bird in. I just click Flamethrower here as he does go Gastrodon. And here, I do make a bit of a risky play. So I calced it. I calced the damage he was doing with Gastrodon. I could tell he was no special attack. So I was like, yeah, let me just go for the flinch on this thing. Obviously I won't kill it, but if I do get the flinch, this thing doesn't get any damage off of me and we're in a great position, right? But if he does like crit me and he kills my Moltres, that Aggron is going to be very hard to take down. But I risk it. I figured the odds of him critting me are low enough compared to the odds of me flinching him and getting out of this successfully. So yeah, he doesn't crit. We live it. Moltres, I'll just go for the Flamethrower here in case he wants to save this. It'll hit everything in the back, and obviously it kills Gastrodon. So yeah, I take out the Gastrodon. That's really the last bit of offense my opponent has. I EV to be faster than max speed Bulu, which if you're running AV, you're probably not max speed. So yeah, I figured he's got his Stone Edge, so I'm just going to roost off all his Stone Edges. I'll roost him out of every single Stone Edge he has, and then I'll just spam Flamethrower and win the game. Yeah, so this just kind of becomes a roost fest. Here, I can throw off another roost here as he gets bored, clicks in one more Stone Edge. Somehow he's hit every single Stone Edge in this game. I think that was, what, 4? I think here he actually throws off a superpower. I'm not sure why. Oh no, I think it's the next turn. So he's hit 5 edges now. Yeah, 5 edges in a row. Very impressive. Now here comes the superpower, and at this point I was like, alright, I'm just going to throw off a Flamethrower here because it looks like he's going to stay in. I'm at a high enough HP that probably good. So he does go for the Stone Edge, and as you can see, he only does 46. So even crit wasn't knocking me out, which is why I was like, yeah. Well, I think a crit might have knocked me out because he would have had not the attack drop, but yeah. I KO the Tap Bulu. Obviously, it was Assault Vest. I go for a nice Flamethrower on the Aggron. Does 54%, which is pretty consistent with the high speed F Aggron, but he roars me out into Diancie, so unfortunately, the bird is the word will not get the final kill, but Diancie, this is now in range of my Earth Power, so Earth Power knocked this thing out, and that's the game. So yeah, there's that. Was definitely a good game. Very scary, very scary team for my opponent. So hard to prep for. Just so many threats. Volcarona, Bulu, Lucha, Zygarde. I mean, and then of course you do have some bulky Pokemon like Aggron, Gastrodon. This was just, yeah, this was scary team to prep for. I don't know how he managed to draft all those things, but yeah. Managed to pull this one out. It's a pretty good win for me. So we do bounce back from our loss last week, head up to 6-3. So we should still be solidly in 3rd place since I did win 4-0. So my differential is going to be increasing pretty nicely, and I should still have a high enough differential to keep ahead of everybody else. That was 5-3 before this week, and that may possibly go to 6-3. So should still be able to stay in 3rd place. Or, sorry, 4th place, which is definitely where we want to be heading into playoff season. So 3 weeks left. I'm pretty sure we've clinched playoffs at this point. With our high differential and the fact that the worst we can finish is 6-6. So that's definitely a good start. I'd have to do the math to make sure that we have guaranteed playoffs, but I think with this win we did. So yeah, now it's just going to be trying to shoot for that 1st round bye. 3 more weeks left, hopefully 3 more wins. But yeah, that's all for me this week. I'll see you guys next week for week 10. Peace.